Hi, second graders. Back again to read from the Magic Trap. Jessie was sitting right next to her father when the phone rang. He had been telling them about something called an IED, which sounded to Jessie like a bomb because it had exploded in the road right in front of the transport vehicle he had been riding in. If we had been even 20 feet closer, he said, we would have all been dead. I'm not kidding you. Jake! Jessie's mom looked angry and tired at the same time, mixed up emotions. Hard for Jessie to read. I don't want you telling the kids stories like that. Why not? They're old enough. They're not babies, right? He turned to Jessie. She nodded. I'm not a baby. She glanced at Evan, who was slouched in the doorway. He was practicing with his quarter, making it dance across his knuckles, then disappear into the palm of his hand. That's when the phone rang, so loud it made Jessie jump half an inch. Her mother hurried to answer it, as if she wanted to stop the horrible sound as quickly as possible. Jessie's head hurt and her stomach felt achy, like it was pumped full of air and pressing out in all directions. She wondered if she felt this way because she was so glad to see her dad was home. Sometimes I forget when an American phone or sometimes I forget what an American phone sounds like, said her father, leaning in towards Jessie. He flashed his special smile at her, his eyes crinkled up in the corners. Jessie wished with all of her heart she could say, me too. She wanted to be just like her dad, a prize-winning reporter, brave, fearless, a hero, though she didn't really want to go to war, though. Too loud, too messy, too scary. She looked closely at her dad, taking inventory. That's what she called it, looking to see what had changed since the last time she had seen him. Everyone always says he's handsome, but Jessie didn't really know what that meant. Her whole life she'd been hearing how handsome her dad was. One time she overheard her grandma saying to her mom, Jake's biggest problem is that he's too handsome for his own good. And that confused Jessie. How could being handsome be a problem? To Jessie, his face looked mostly the same. Gray blue eyes, a straight nose, high cheekbones, and a strong jaw. He had thick, dark hair that seemed just a little bit longer than the last time. There were also a few gray hairs above his ears. That was new. Was her dad getting old? She knew he ran 5 miles a day, and old people don't do that. Jessie looked at her father's hands. Were they resting, which were resting on the edge of the kitchen table? He had long fingers and strong hands. No ring. Jessie always looked for that when he came home. Hey, said her mother into the phone, is something wrong? I was beginning to worry when I didn't hear from you. She walked into the dining room, which was now Grandma's bedroom, and closed the door behind her. Grandma was visiting her old neighbors, the Uptons, back in upstate New York. Jessie's mom had driven her there the day before. She was going to spend the week with her friend while Mom was away. It would have been too hard for Peggy to take care of Evan, Jessie, and Grandma. Grandma had a way of forgetting things, like what year it was, or why she was living with the Trustees now, or even the names of her own grandchildren. The Uptons, though, they were used to Grandma and her forgetful ways. They were her oldest, dearest friends. She would be safe with them. But now Jessie wondered if the phone call was from Grandma. Maybe there was a problem. Maybe she needed them. Maybe something had gone wrong. She tapped her foot against the rung of the chair to try to make that feeling in her stomach go away. Hey, Evan, said her dad, come over here. Evan stuffed the quarter in his pocket and then slowly pushed away from the doorframe that he was leaning on, and he walked over to the kitchen table. His dad got up and stood next to him, pulling Evan in close and resting his hand flat on the top of Evan's head. How much have you grown this year? Evan shrugged. 3 inches and 1/4, said Jessie, jumping up and dancing around the two of them. That's what Dr. Becker said at his last checkup. She said he was going to be as tall as you, maybe taller. Taller than me? The dad stretched up to his full height, straightening his back and puffing out his chest. Well, we'll see about that. I'm still growing, you know. Are not, laughed Jessie. She felt as if she had an electric current running right through her body. Her dad was just so much fun. Jessie, settle down, said Evan, sounding like their mother. Jessie whirled around so she was facing her brother. You're not the boss of me, Evan Tresky. Fine, said Evan. Let your head explode. See if I care. He headed for the stairs. Where are you going? Asked their dad. I've got things to do, he said. Like what? Mr. Tresky flashed his special smile. His magic act, shouted Jessie, not wanting to be left out of the conversation. He's going to put on a show, so he's practicing all the time. Magic? Said their dad, smiling even wider. I used to know a few tricks. Well, one at least. I wonder if I still remember it. He rubbed his head along his cheek and scratched his chin. Jessie noticed that he had some whiskers growing on his face. She hoped he wasn't going to grow a beard. Jessie didn't like when her dad had a beard. He didn't look like himself. Will you show me a trick? Evan hesitated. Jessie could understand why. Evan loved performing his tricks, and he was good. Why wouldn't he want to show his dad? Yes, he'll show you, shouted Jessie. Show him the one where you make the balls disappear under the cups. Oh, that's the best. Or the one with the water in the hat. A minute later, Evan returned to the kitchen with 3 red plastic cups, which he set up on the kitchen table. Then he began the show. No matter how many times she watched Evan do this trick, Jessie just couldn't figure out how he made the balls disappear and reappear under the cups. He would lift up one cup. There would be a ball underneath. Then he'd move the cups around the table and lift the same cup, and there'd be nothing underneath. Then the ball would reappear under another cup, and he did it all so fast, it was incredible. Evan had a book that showed the trick, but even so, Jessie couldn't follow it with her eyes. That was stupendous, said their father when Evan made the 3 balls appear at the end of the trick. You're really good. Evan smiled. It was the first time Jessie had seen him smile since their dad arrived. Can I try one? Asked her dad. I don't know if I can remember. He picked up the 3 balls and started juggling them. Jessie had never seen her dad juggle. I'm just warming up, he said. I'm a little rusty. He caught each ball, tossed it into the air, and caught it again in an endless loop that seemed to go faster and faster. All of a sudden, there were only 2 balls. Where did the other ball go? It was as if there was 1 minute and gone the next. Jessie kept her eyes fixed on the remaining 2 balls, which her dad was juggling even faster than before. Suddenly, there was just 1 ball. Her dad was tossing it into the air and catching it in a looping circle. How did you do that? Said Jessie. Even Evan was paying close attention. Do what? Asked her dad. Make the balls disappear. Oh, did I make the balls disappear? Asked her dad. Are you sure? And just like that, there were 2 balls in the air again. Hey, shouted Jessie. There are, but before she could finish her sentence, there were 3 balls dancing in the air again. 1, 2, 3. Their dad counted as he caught each ball one at a time. Wow, said Evan, that was a really good trick. Mr. Tresky laughed and handed the balls back to Evan. I haven't done that since college. I'm surprised I didn't drop all 3 of them. Can you teach me how to do that? How good's your juggling? Asked their dad. Not great, said Evan. Practice, said their dad, a lot, and then I'll show you how it's done. Jessie wondered if this meant that her dad was going to stay for a while. Usually he visited just for 1 or 2 days. He always had someplace important that he had to go to. Even when he said he could stay longer, sometimes things came up that called him away. But here he was making a promise. Maybe this time would be different. Jessie's mom walked back into the kitchen and placed the phone on its base. What's wrong? Asked Evan. Jessie looked at his mom. Her face looked like a weird mixture of too many emotions. Well, the mom said, you don't have to worry about me not being able to close my suitcase because I'm not going to San Francisco. I wonder what happened. Who was on the phone and why would things change? We'll find out. Bye. Have a good day.